Hello, everyone. Please check out my shoes. I love these because one is red and one is green from the back. If you guys can't see them, please join me afterwards. We can do a deep dive on these. My name is Iram Mirza. As you mentioned, I lead the UX teams for Play Store for monetization and user growth. And since this is the last session before lunch and some of the afternoon sessions, I thought we would keep it light and really just talk about what went on in Play Store in the last couple of years. So let's talk about Play. Play Store is a really high traffic destination globally, available to almost 3 billion users, available on different form factors for Android. So it's present on Android Auto, Android TV, the phone, all the different form factors for Android phone, the web, and Chrome OS. That means that this is an app that users are getting automatically on their device. They don't have to install. And we're getting the traffic because users have to use this to install apps. So it's really good from a business perspective. In terms of story, and I wanted to apologize, this is really bothering me. I don't know what happened from I think it was a template mismatch, so please know that I did realize this. I spent 20 minutes trying to fix it last night. I gave up, so this is not me. So the year was 2017. This was the year when Salt Bae had come out and he was sprinkling salt. I think it was, Ed Sheeran was talking about one of his really popular songs. And among the other dinosaurs, there was this dinosaur from a UX perspective. The font, old school. What's up with this card? The shadow was awkward. The information architecture was all over the place. From a complexity perspective, users weren't really sure how to navigate, how to create very discoverable experiences. This is also the time when the last visual refresh for Play Store had been done many years ago when Android's Material 1 launched and when Google looked like this. It was a long time ago. So from an organizational perspective, you'll hear some themes that were similar, but also very different from some of the sessions that we've heard from Salesforce, that we've heard from Stitch Fix, that we've heard from Jason right now from Airbnb. From a team perspective, I got together, I was looking at this, I don't know how to go back. Looking at this dinosaur, I was like, well, we really need to fix this from a visual perspective. Like the visual design is all over the place, there's no consistency. And there's nothing wrong with the business because we are focusing on monetization. We are thinking about business models. We are really doing a great job in terms of partnership with engineering on improving latency. So we're not really running into the issues of, hey, users are hitting that 3-second mark and they're leaving the app. What we are is running into a session of this is, skinny jeans and skinny jeans are out. Sorry. So who is involved? At this point, I got together a group of people, really focused, who were hybrid designers from my team. And I said, let's get together and think about what we want to change. Create a visual design system, something that is going to be beautiful, something that is going to be relevant, something that is going to extend across all the different form factors that we have, very easily allow us to scale to TV, to auto, these new things that we're trying to do. That did not work. It was not a good idea. The folks who were not involved from my team felt that the others who were working on this exercise were the chosen ones. They were working on this sexy special project. That was not the case. I had to keep both sides of the business running, supporting the ongoing efforts in addition to doing something that was for. So this part did not work well. From a cross-functional partnership perspective, I think this is a theme that we heard a lot about from Russ yesterday, and also I think Jason and the guy from Salesforce, I've forgotten his name, sorry, Michael, he was also talking about is the organizational alignment is very, very critical. Because this was a design-led effort, I actually thought that it would be a great thing to put forth an idea, have that seed of what the design could be, and then bring in our partners from PM, from engineering, from BD, from marketing, everyone else. It seemed like there was a lot of concern or lack of empathy, lack of time, lack of alignment around this. People were like, well, we're not really, why do we need to do this? Because we have all these other efforts. We're generating revenue, we're contributing to Google's bottom line. Is this really critical? So there was a little bit of a misalignment in terms of how my partners were thinking about this. And then the framing of the why. In addition to this being more of a visual design system, I think I mentioned earlier, this really was allowing us to do things that we weren't able to do with the current design system. Like the ability to do a lot more UX theatrics in terms of animation and motion. The framework was not allowing us to do that. But the way I was pitching it to my partners and eventually to leadership was, I want to stay relevant and fresh. We're building a consistent experience since the last redesign. New designers have joined the team. We've been doing some really big things in terms of user loyalty and growing the business, so there isn't consistency anymore. And then how do we leverage the Google brand overall, since we're thinking about a beyond mobile space as well. It was not lemon squeezy. It was very hard because the overall org around us were saying, we're actually doing really well. We are, from a business perspective, from a revenue perspective, from org, and what are some of the things that we're trying to do in the future, everything is working. And so this was a difficult time. Our leadership, when we eventually the UX team took this to leadership and said, hey, we want to invest a considerable amount of engineering time supporting this, there was not a lot of excitement, and the VPs put a pause on this. This was very hard. The designers who had been working, the chosen designers, were really demotivated. They were like, what the F? We spent 2017, 3/4 of our time investing in creating something that is beautiful, that is meant to be forward-looking, that is meant to be inspiring. We're talking about 3 billion users, and we don't want dinosaur experiences. So this was a huge setback in terms of motivation for them. I was actually really concerned about team morale at this point, and was I going to lose some of the folks on my team? And then for me, it was like, oh my God, what is happening? I need to buy shoes. I bought a bunch of shoes during this time that I am not wearing, but they're beautiful. One of my favorite ones it has spikes. I love spikes. Spikes in the front as well. And my PMs were like, are you going to use these for UX reviews? Are you going to kick me under the table? I was like, yes, that's actually exactly why I bought them. But But this was a time where I really had to say, stop buying the shoes and start focusing on what is the plan B. Because I had the conviction that what we were trying to do is really important. From a metrics perspective, yes, we are doing good. Yes, the numbers are great, but in terms of creating that resonance with our users, in terms of creating something that is beautiful, something that is forward-looking, something that is going to address user needs in the future, we do need to do this. But it required some reframing and realignment within the org. So from a UX team organization's perspective, really critical to involve everyone. Obviously, not everyone can work on projects like these. We do need to keep the business, the lights on. So while, still maintaining that same, small group of people who are working on the system while we have designers who are focused on features, how do we make sure that everyone is involved, maybe in different capacities, whether they are reviewing, whether they are saying, well, I'm the owner for games or information architecture, and here's my feedback. I will be a reviewer or an approver or a stakeholder in some of these features. Communication, obviously, I mean, this is like not rocket science, but figuring out different ways of reaching to different people across the UX teams, both within Play and also across Google, working with the Android team, working with GAR, our accessibility teams, and thinking of ways whether you're using, joining other people's staff meetings or sending out monthly newsletters. And then also having a very clear sense of who is the final approver and who is a stakeholder and a reviewer in all this. I think that really helped. From a cross-functional partnership perspective, this required a lot of stepping back and reaching out to partner teams, to sister teams, and saying, well, what makes you excited? There was something that was really interesting that Jason talked about, which is there are these large initiatives that will happen within the company, and sometimes they disrupt, but there are other moments where you can say, I can use this. So there was an effort to get our accessibility rating high. And I was like, oh yeah, actually we're doing this redesign really to get our accessibility to level 4. Sundar at that time was focused on that. I was like, oh, this is really great. We're doing this because of that. Material 2 had just come up, and this was a great moment, even though we weren't really focused on material. We keep saying we are Google's sexy cousin, so we don't really need to use that design system. But it was a great way to say, well, the company is moving from a UX perspective, so we need to leverage that as well. So thinking of what is going on and what is motivating teams around you, and how do you build that into your collaboration with these partners. Everyone wants to be involved. Everyone wants to be in the know. So again, figuring out how you're going to be talking to them, thinking of strategies of sharing with them without adding burden to the team. And then from a leadership perspective, there are a few different things that folks have talked about yesterday and today. Here, there wasn't a clear executive sponsor. It was a grassroots effort. It was something that I was like, hey, we really need to do this. We need to evolve the brand and create a freshness from a UX perspective. But at this point, when it gets down to alignment and making sure that we are able to create the priority and the space for engineering to work on this, we needed to bring in, and escalate to VPs and get that buy-in. So figure out how you want to work with those teams over there. And then the analytics team really became, our friend, the UX team's friend during all of this. This was really interesting because, I'm talking about beauty. I'm talking about simplicity. I'm talking about, creativity. These are things that are very, very difficult to measure and quantify and look at it from scale. From a research perspective, I can do surveys of, N of 1,000. I can bring in folks in different geos because, Play is a global market. So I'll say, Japan, Korea, in Indonesia, in the US. We will do these research sessions, but we'll do them with like a sample of 12. So not able to see the scale. So I really had to rely heavily on the analytics team to say, we want to do this for our key customer user journeys. Please help us understand where is that breakdown. And from there, able to parse out what is breaking down from an overall metrics perspective and how do we address that. And really leaning into the fact that, yes, with a new design, with a new visual statement, there's going to be a loss. So when working with the analytics team, it was like, oh yeah, there's a X $1 million loss that is coming with this. It came to a point where somebody, the Gmail team was talking about Sundar announcing this at I/O, yay! And I was like, I'm going to tell you guys that we had to tell Sundar there's going to be a loss of X $1 million. No, not so yay. I was like, oh my God, are we going to get bonuses this year? But we got bonuses. It was good. I'm ruining the story here for you, but it is very important to have that conversation up front. And this is, when I'm talking about how you want leadership to be involved, being very clear about where that metric loss is happening and how you're going to address this. And this is where, it was my conviction that was coming up, that I believe this is the right thing for the user, and know that this organization is very smart and we can recover, but we need to create a new baseline. So that's what, that just became our mantra, is this is the new baseline. And we will figure out how to squeeze the lemon moving forward, but it's going to be from this new state. Working with the business teams to craft a user and a business story. Obviously, from a UX perspective, creating a simpler information architecture, creating a discoverable way for users to engage with and re-engage with content on Play Store, both from a games and apps digital content perspective. But also creating that business case. What is it changing? Are we creating new pathways or enabling the team to think about different revenue models? Are we allowing the product to scale so that it can do X, Y, and Z, and whatever the how might we's for the business and the business development team and our commerce growth teams were? And building those insights back into the UX narrative. And then having that rationale to justify the metrics loss. So having said all that, my rationale still remained the same. That we needed to be relevant, we needed to be fresh, we needed to create something new, just like brands do. Like you look at this beautiful car, but it has evolved, and we all still love each one of them, but there is an evolution that is required. Something that was also different than what Jason was talking about is this notion of a step change. You can do small increments, much easier to test. So figure out with your analytics and with your engineering team, how are you going to create behind the scenes experimentation? But from a user perspective, it is a lot more powerful to say there is a step change. You wake up and there is, a new Play Store. There is a new experience. How do you do that? It is possible. It is very hard, and you will get white hair from this, but it is possible. And so, this is just some screenshots of Play overall. I inherited it at this state where kind of messy, the IA entertainment. Like, what is entertainment? What's going on? You tap on this, and then the IA breaks down into apps and games. It was messy. Anyway, so, doing something that is fresh and modern, but also is solving user and business needs. And know that the users are watching and users are judging. Users are, they're thinking of creative ways. They're using some of the most beautifully designed experiences around the world. They might say, well, we have to use Play Store because we have an Android device, but then they're sitting in their Audis, they're looking at these beautifully crafted experiences. So they're judging what is, what is not cool. And then, there's also a lot of research that says that within the first 50 seconds of you experiencing a website or a mobile app, you make an impression of whether this is going to be a good experience or not, even if it isn't. But so, that overall aesthetic is also very important. This is where we landed. Happy to chat with you guys about, the UX. I didn't focus so much on, what we changed in terms of the UI, but it landed really well. We launched in August. It was a good thing. Jason was also talking about coming up with a team name for this, and Drake is cool. I wanted my product to be Drake. It's like so. I tried to say let's call it Drake. That didn't get a lot of buy-in, but I was like, okay, how about we call it Viz Dre? So the code name for this project was VizDre. And now it's something that people in different teams, like the ads team knows about VizDre, Android knows about VizDre. It's really cool. Drake is happy. Viz Drake is happy. It's all really good. And for folks who work on Android police is, you think about what they're going to say about your features, and especially these things that impact the user. So there was a lot of anxiety on the UX team in terms of how is Android police going to react. It was, they loved it. Well, they didn't say they loved it. They were like, oh, good, thank God they've done this. It was about time. which was really nice. And then, they were like, oh, we want a dark theme as well. It's like, yeah, it's coming. So that was really nice to hear. There was a lot of press from some other places like TechCrunch acknowledging it. When we did user research, users were also saying across different geos in emerging markets, in these hyper-developed markets like Japan and Korea, in the US, talking about this feeling more sophisticated, more grown up, something where they can browse easily. From a metrics perspective, we had set out to say we wanted to create a place where users can engage and browse organically. The numbers for those skyrocketed. So even though there was a loss in terms of ads revenue and there was a loss in terms of some other key features, things that we were trying to drive from a behavioral perspective, we nailed those. So that was really good. It was very, it was reassuring. And I think what it's allowed us to do is, creating this modular and systematic approach is allowing the team to think about how we can build on top of it. That's really good. The other thing that it's done is, from a leadership perspective, there is now this question of, well, great, like Iram said, it was important and she had that conviction, but that can't always fly. So think about a system and a mechanism for measuring user experience. What is good UX? So for 2020, now I'm focusing on creating a system that says, well, how do we measure whether something is a good UX? I think that is a great way to end this 2-year saga, 1 year of just selling and saying, yes, we're gonna do it, getting the pause, and then 1 year of getting people to buy in and then launching this. I think we have some time left, so happy to answer questions or talk about this, talk about shoes. Anybody wearing interesting shoes? Yes?
So when you talk about beautiful UX and measuring results, have you thought about measuring people's brain waves instead of tracking their eyes, or how do you measure friction? Oh, thank you.
That's a giant.
How do you measure friction or beautiful UX?
Yeah.
So have you thought about instead of eye tracking or mouse tracking, measuring people's brainwaves, or is there any practical ways to efficiently do that?
I haven't thought about the brainwaves part, but I'll definitely look into it and I'll talk to the UXR team about it. In terms of measuring friction, what we're trying to do is identify our top user journeys across games. Games is a huge focus for Play, so games, apps, subscriptions, big deal for Play and Android ecosystem overall, and also digital content. So once we identify those, and I think just doing a heuristic evaluation internally, because we have some great researchers who can say, well, yeah, this is where it's breaking down, here's a friction, and then building on top of that to test with different markets. Because now that we have something modular, it'll be really interesting to see, should we be tweaking something for Indonesia? Should we be tweaking something for India, et cetera? But yes, we're thinking about that. Yeah. But the brainwave thing is really interesting. If you have, maybe we should chat about how you're testing with the brainwaves piece.
I think I might have it.
Oh, you have one.
You should still hold that green box.
How did you gain buy-in knowing knowing you were going to have a setback in ads revenue? What is a setback in revenue and a setback in usership? What was the thing that everyone sort of bought into? Was it the end user experience? Was it something different that enabled you to gain buy-in from that C-suite?
Yeah, it's a really good question. It was acknowledging that there was that buy-in, having a number there. So if you're able to say it's $2 or X million, that is very important because they want to know whether this is something that can be recoverable in a year, 2 years. That was very important. And then listening to the justification and rationale for why this is a good user experience, and referring back to some UX principles around why things are broken, or things just feel dated. We keep talking about growing the business and reaching even more billion users, but these billion users, especially in these emerging markets, they're dealing with experiences like Kakao and like WeChat, where the user experience is changing on a very regular basis. There's a lot of nimble teams around the world, and we're lagging. We're the dinosaurs right now because the edge infrastructure is brittle, or we need to focus on other things. So that part's really important.
Great. Are there any other questions that the audience has?
especially around shoes, guys. Be available later. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Iram.